It's interesting that ancient Hebrew, you see these are what's called Astral Hebrew. And the Hebrew letters, according to those that are out there, according to some of the Jewish rabbis, the astral letters actually came. This is where the Hebrew came from. Was from this originally from these astral letters. Now these letters correspond with the constellations, by the way. Now, what this says in astral Hebrew is the same thing which is in Hebrew here, which in English is this, Psalm 19:1. It says, "The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork." I'm just going to point out a couple to you. You can examine this on YouTube. But you see this one? And look down here. See how similar? Now here's the next one. You see that? And here's the next one. See? And then you got this Yod up here. And then you got another one. You got another one of these. This is actually this is the same letter as this. It's just a final form. And so you can see that is the same as this. And then there's another one just like it, see? And so all these letters actually correspond to the heavenly signs. Now, why this is important is because we've been following this trail that the constellations so far have appeared to answer to each chapter. So you take the first constellation and you look at Revelation chapter 1 and there was a match. You take the second constellation, which is along the path of the sun, and you take the next constellation and it fit the second chapter, and the third one and the third one. But you only have 12 signs of the zodiac, don't you? And we've already covered 12, so where do we go from here? Well, the Jews actually have 10 more letters in their alphabet. And the way we find out is from the Astral Hebrew, because these other 10 letters actually point to 10 other signs. They're not 10 other signs like the 12 signs in the zodiac, because the 12 houses are 12, right? There's not 13. But remember we said there's 48 signs up there? But I don't know which way to go to look, except for we have the answer right here. It's before us. But each one of these correspond. Anyway, the one for 13, and this is incredible. What you're about to see. Here's the letter, and I don't know enough about this to look at the actual constellation to identify the stars. I have a book at home that shows this, and when you look at it, you can see what stars it's actually talking about what stars. You can see where the letter's coming from, and some of them are much more obvious than the others. But anyway, this is the 13th sign in the heavens according to Judaism, and it's this constellation Eridanus or Eridanus, or however that's pronounced in the mythology. But let me keep in mind that we're talking about the number 13. This is the 13th sign. We're talking about the Antichrist, right? We just got through talking in Revelation 12 how Satan is cast down to the earth and all his demons with him. Listen to this. In mythology, this is a river, okay? And you can see the river here. It's in this picture here. Here's Orion, and you see this river coming down here? And actually, you can't see this. We referred to him before, but over here is Cetus, which is that beast that rises up out of the sea. But anyway, let me read this to you, because this comes from mythology, and this explains in mythology what this river represented. And where do you see the parallel here? In mythology, this river is especially significant because it is the river that received the body of Phaethon. So Phaethon fell from heaven as a burning torch after being judged and punished by Zeus. It seems that Zeus had hurled a thunderbolt at Phaethon, thereby causing his flesh to be consumed from off his bones, to stand as an everlasting judgment against such grave misconduct and disobedience. Even after many years had passed, it was said that the body of Phaethon still smoldered in the river into which he fell. Who does that sound like? Satan. In fact, when you look in the book of Revelation, you see after the beast and the false prophet are there and they're in the lake of fire for 1,000 years, and then when Satan is in there, cast in there, they're still there, right? And they're still smoldering, they're still burning. So that river actually is a river of fire. It represents a river of fire. And Eridanus is actually the deacon of the constellation Taurus. Taurus is number 1. It's the first constellation. So we actually visited this as its reference. Taurus referred to chapter 1. But here we are. We went full circle and we came back to Taurus. But it's a deacon, which is interesting, for the 13th. So you got 12 plus 1. So let me read this here. In mythology, this river is especially significant. Part of this is a duplicate to what we read, but most of it's different. Mythology, this river is especially significant because it is the river that received the body of Phaethon. Now, Phaethon was not a mere mortal being. He was a son of Helios, the sun god. The story of Phaethon somewhat parallels the biblical story of Lucifer. Phaethon not only wanted to rule the earth, and to be set above his peers and his subjects, but he additionally desired to have them bow down before him and to proclaim him as being worthy of receiving their worship. In other words, you can read about this in mythology. This is coming from mythology, this story, okay? Day after day, Phaethon continually meditated upon how he might prove to the inhabitants of the earth that he was worthy of receiving their worship, and how that they should esteem him as being equal to all the other gods that received honor and adoration. It is said that Phaethon plagued his father day after day by requesting that he might be given an opportunity to prove himself and to demonstrate his divine abilities before men, believing within himself that they would naturally give him praise and worship if the worship he deserved, if only they could see his power and be made to marvel at his superior abilities. Can you see the nature of Antichrist? This is what he's going to do, right? He wants to give worship. He's going to show how powerful he is. Satan is going to be showing off. Although Phaethon had been greatly superior to the other inhabitants of the earth, being himself the son of Helios, and therefore truly possessing divine attributes, his father had informed him he was too inexperienced to stand in the office and in the position which he sought after and desired. To do so would only result in his destruction. So he was warned not to go there. The repeated warnings and advice of the father's wisdom were to no avail. Eventually, when the opportunity finally came, both Lucifer and Phaethon in the stories took the reins into their own hands. This action is described as attempting to take control of the chariot of the sun. This is just another way of saying to set him up as being equal to God. Remember, God in this case was Helios, right? The sun god. Although his father had warned him, he simply had no respect for this warning. Despising the admonition of his father, he continued to feed his inward desire to seek the glory that simply was not rightfully his to seek. He continued to feed the sinful desire within himself. Eventually that sin would finally take occasion to act out the lust within his heart. Evidently believing himself to be wiser than his father, he had planned a certain scheme which would finally end in an almost complete annihilation of the earth, as well as his own complete ruin. As a result of his sin, Phaethon was judged, cast out of the presence of God, to be banished or plunged into a literal lake of fire. Being inexperienced and having insufficient strength to control the reins of the 4 white horses, Phaethon had lost control of the chariot of the sun. Such loss of control is described as causing a chain reaction of evil events that caused the earth to be scorched by the the sun, while at the same time also causing the entire earth to be plunged into deep, cold darkness. What you see in Genesis 1:1 and 1:2 is a very description of this. And if this describes when Lucifer was cast out of heaven in the first place, and when he sinned, it kind of shines right through there in Genesis 1:1, and this is even before Adam's on the earth. The great darkness would have resulted in freezing many of the living inhabitants of the earth. There have been actual findings of creatures upon this earth being suddenly covered in ice as a result of some great cataclysmic events. Usually we refer that to the time of Noah. Phaethon fell from heaven as a burning torch after being judged and punished by Zeus. It seems that Zeus had hurled a thunderbolt at Phaethon, thereby causing his flesh to be consumed from off his bones to stand as an everlasting judgment against such grave misconduct and disobedience. Even after many years had passed, it was said that the body of Phaethon still smoldered in the river into which he fell. When I read that, to me, it just reeks of the story of Lucifer. And that's the sign. We've seen this one before. You can see also the river. And you can see this is the beast coming out of the water, because it not only represents a river of fire in that story, but it also refers to a river of water in another story, in a myth. But here you can see the beast rising up. We've described this before, how Ares represented Jesus Christ. He broke the bonds that held the fish captive. You can see Andromeda hasn't changed. We described all that in previous videos. This thing represented in the Greek myths, the monster represents Typhon, the fiercest monster of all, having many heads, with each head speaking a different tongue. What is that? The dragon's got 7 heads, and so does the beast that comes out of the water. According to the myth, this great monster had rushed toward Olympus to destroy the kingdom of heaven. None were able to overcome the monster except the promised seed that was to come, who's right here. Remember, we said that he holds in his hand the head of Medusa. The name is Algol. The star is Algol, and it actually means the head of the accuser, or Satan, if you will.